It's a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this panel and explore in a world where we continuously keep saying talent is scarce. How many of you feel talent is scarce? Not able to get the right talent? Yeah, you can lift your hands much higher, because I'm sure it'll be a room full of people. And here we are deliberating on a topic where we say talent is abundant. And I personally believe talent is abundant, and I'll give you a couple of stories. Look beyond the metros of Chennai, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, and go into the small city of Tiruvannamalai, and you will meet a girl called Vinisha Uma Shankar, a first-generation professional. Her father is a farmer, and here is this girl studying in class 9, and she has invented a solar-powered ironing cart, which provides a lot of her neighborhood men employability and ability to save money. Yeah. My second story is in a place called Rajasthan, and a gentleman by name Mansukh Bhai, again a first-generational professional rather, a family of potters, and he invents this amazing sustainable refrigeration called as Mitti Cool. Another idea of innovation, again, somebody who hasn't gone through the portals of a college or an academic degree, but making huge sales through Mitti Cool and a sustainable option. My third example is a colleague from my own organization, a guy who just completed barely his 10th standard, was working in the cinemas as a stunt actor, and we finally find him because he needed a more sustainable job which gave him a regular income. So he joins us, and he's part of the corporate services team, and we are setting up a lab, and we manufacture high tonnage refrigerations and air conditioning systems, and we have a technology lab here. So these are huge systems, which is something that's not prevalent in an IT corridor, an IT company. And there is this team that's trying to set up the lab, and they're not finding the right way to get the equipment inside the building. All right? And these are all brilliant engineers from just here, IIT Chennai and IIT Mumbai. And they're struggling, and they're haggling with the Capital Land Park where we are in to see how do we raise the ceiling. And this guy is quietly standing at the back, and he says, why raise the ceiling when you can lower the ground? And just go dig it up 3 feet down, and you can place your system there. That's Kannan, my colleague, whose talent we spotted as somebody who invents, and he does that continuously. There was another incident during COVID times, small little things. Again, a 10th standard guy, but having a mind of an engineer, right? So how many of us who are in HR who look up a resume and say, I'm going to qualify this person because this is a BE grad, right? And these days we kind of diplomatically trade off between a mechanical engineering or a computer in sciences. We're okay with as long as they have BE, but that's required. How many of us are willing to trade that off for vocational skills that people get? How many of us interview people beyond their skills? Because that's my second paradox, that intelligence is heavily commoditized. Look at your phones and type in this title, talent is abundant. Just type it, and you will see a relay of articles, a relay of YouTube articles there. You want to develop a website? Just go to ChatGPT and ask, how do I develop this website? You want to set up a startup company? Just yesterday, I received this mail from a firm called a Startup Mentor, something like that. And they have an application where you key in your ideas, and whoops, it provides your startup ideas. So you get it, right? Intelligence is heavily commoditized. It's no more in the hands of a privileged few, or the privileged few who come in through colleges. And it's no more restricted to certain parts of the country. It's prevalent all around. Anybody can go get it, access it. I'm sure you agree with that. My third, therefore, submissive statement here is that leadership becomes the most crucial ingredient to get this talent and to be inventive about getting this talent from where it is. And as an example, look at Zoho. They went where talent is available. They are not in any metro cities of Bangalore or Gurgaon or Hyderabad. They go all the way down into a rural place, beautiful place. I've been there and enjoy the place, Tenkasi. And you should just be there to experience the vibrancy of the employees there because they're staying in their hometown, they are near their parents, they're near farmlands, they're touching earth, and they have this beautiful sustainable office. So, you know, a case study of where they go to where talent rests. And there are several examples, and along with me, I'm very privileged to have Bharath, Ramesh, and Priya, very, learned people who have a lot of experience in the space. So let's also hear from them what's their story. So we'll start with brain drain, right? Because that's the most often repeated construct that we all have in our mind, that there's a heavy brain drain and what are we doing? And India has a lot of opportunities, but we don't have enough people to work on those ideas. So we'll hear from Priya. And over to you, Priya, to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Hema. And since you started with a story, let me just build on it, that if you were to look at the map and look at this little town called Hosur, which in its early 1980s got converted to be perhaps one of the largest hub of manufacturing. And how did that journey begin? I can at least share with you how it began in Titan, where our beloved erstwhile MD, Mr. Xerxes Desai, said that, why don't we get people who have perhaps not necessarily done BE or graduation. They were all, some of them 10th or 12th pass, or maybe even 10th failed at some of them, but were taken in for the skill. They brought in dexterity in watchmaking. They brought in the skill. And today you look at Hosur, which houses some of the largest manufacturing companies, be it certainly Titan, Tanishq, and then you have Ashok Leyland, TVS. We also have the latest kid in the block there, which is growing phenomenally, which is Tata Electronics. And all of these are stories where it's not necessarily the structured and the tried and tested that have worked. We've actually gone into places where the skills have been there, and skill has been the currency, not necessarily the education tag which is there. Having said that, I'm also stating that it is perhaps a norm today, looking at what the qualification is. And I want to say that I don't know if you should focus on brain drain, because that perhaps is still not very large segment. It is there. I'm not saying it's not there. It's been a concern for many years. In the latest US debate, Trump has also spoken about how he wants to keep the Indians, get the best of the Indians into US and keep them, because he believes when they go back to India, they become billionaires. And the 2023 article of NASSCOM also says that almost 25% of the startups in India are started by returnees. And I also have with me a colleague here who is, sitting in the panelist here, who is also a returnee, Bharath. Even within our company, we've actually hired some of the returnees. And I believe that the word perhaps for that would be the brain circulation, because they're also bringing in expertise, they're bringing in investments. And India is really a shining story. And closer home, I have boys who are engineers. And I must tell you, I tried very hard to break that mold of, engineering is perhaps not the only education that one should be pursuing. There are many other skills that one should look at, but I failed. And some of the things that I hear from them as well is that the working with startups is giving them such fabulous joy and wanting to be part of this very shining story which is there. So yes, there are parts of the brain drain, which perhaps is not really good for the country. For example, I think healthcare, right? If you look at a country like US, almost 35% of the doctors are Indians. And here we struggle with the ratio, right? And the WHO recently had said that the ideal ratio is one doctor is to 1,000 people, and we are at close to 1 is to 1,500. And though Tamil Nadu is a different ratio, I must tell you, and that's thanks to I think the number of colleges which are there. But at a large in India, this continues to be a struggle. I have a cousin's son who's is interested in astrophysics, and in fact he's got picked up by NASA. And I hear that in NASA, almost 38% are Indians, right? Which again means that there are some places that the India needs to still be able to retain, attract, and also use returnee to build maybe in the space of defense, space, and in healthcare as well. However, like you said, let's also focus on what we have. Because finally, the ones who can afford education abroad are not very large numbers, right? In the sense, it is from the privileged segment. There are about 200,000 students who do go to US, but there are a large number who are staying back in India. And I do believe that there are some gaps also in our educational system. Because we are still, perhaps a large part of our education system, and I'm not referring to the IBs, which again I feel is for maybe more for the privileged, but I'm saying the large part of the education system does suffer from quality teachers. It does suffer from curriculums which are not updated. Still, it's one which is content heavy and depends a lot on memorization. So I do think that there is a lot of work to be done ground up. Some of this is slow burning. I think the work around the education system will take some time. But if we don't begin that right now, and there is a new education policy that is looking at this, but if we don't embrace, and if we don't get some of the industry best or even good professors from some of the best universities, and I would say why not also engage with some of the best professors from international universities to build our curriculum. So the entire, this island of gift that has started in Ahmedabad, where you have some of the Australian universities that are coming in. We should get more universities to come into India and set up, and we have some of our own as well. I think we have some of the best universities. Perhaps it is important that we work, the industries, the companies have to work with universities in bridging the skill gap. And I do believe that we have a skill gap which we need to work on. But so proud to say that when you look at the Flipkarts, the Lennox, many other startups that have come in and provided opportunities to an entire ecosystem. And I was speaking to Bharath, who was telling me the number of entrepreneurs they have given birth to because of the sellers who can put their products onto the website. So the entire ecosystem, in fact, has got lifted. I think we should focus on, within India, the talent that we have. How do you develop it, build it? And I do believe that both the government and the Indian industries can play a big role in collaborating there. And I think there are some beginnings there, but I do believe that a deeper work needs to take place.
Hey, thanks, Priya. I think some key things for us to reflect on. Some of us who are from academics, some of us who are from skilling. Go where the skills are available. You heard the story of Titan and moving into Hosur, going where the skills are available. To encourage, brain circulation is actually pretty encouraging because we get best practices to come into our country. And that brain circulation actually helps. And it's actually, we see examples of it in how the startups are thriving around us, right? That's a huge portion of brain circulation. And we have one person who is back from that, and he should talk about it. We should also make brain retention attractive, and that's for all of us to reflect and think through. And what are the gaps and how should we address it? Is it about a marriage, a beautiful marriage between corporates and academia? Is it about nurturing faculty to address the skill gap? Something for all of you to reflect on and see it as an opportunity. Over to.
Yeah, I think Priya spoke quite a bit on brain circulation. Two anecdotes which seems to actually, like, they're green shoots, right? I think the GCCs are the flavor of the month, the flavor of the year right now. And a lot of the GCCs are seeing returnees from abroad. And what it does is actually bring the best practices from the world across into India. And people who are now working with them also understand like, okay, how does the world basically work? So there's a good of it. In fact, like the government Pillai scheme has really surprised some of my batchmates. Like recently said, like we are coming back and working, and very interestingly to Tata Electronics, and they are 20 years, 30-year veterans in Samsungs of the world. They said, yeah, there is now opportunities for that kind of work, and I actually see a reverse, what you call, passion to come back, kind of. And then like I also, because my daughter is now in 10th, and like we talk, I talk to her friends and everything else, there is that thought process that's happening also in that younger generation, that the next 20 years or 30 years is for India. So even if I were to go abroad for studies, I want to come back. So I think there is a very good story that is out there. I don't think there is any shortage of talent. Now to coming to the question of like what Hema was asking around skill gaps, right? Skill gap, I think is, I think we are in a generation of where new skills or new things are needed almost regularly. Like I'll just give an example from Flipkart. I'm 9 years into Flipkart, and supply chain, which we think is the most boring thing that is out there, like why should it just moving A to B? I think we have seen internally itself in the 9 years, 3 avatars of supply chain evolving. Now, how does the industry basically get that skill from the market, right? Like it's a very difficult challenge. Like our curriculums don't necessarily change that fast. So, but what we are also seeing is a lot of government bodies, not both central and state bodies, are willing to work with the industry. And like we see different parts of ITIs with the governments coming, and like we have something called a supply chain academy at Flipkart. We get like 300 to 400 kids on a yearly basis who basically get trained into like different aspects of designing a warehouse to like how does say last mile work to and all, and then going across into the industry. Can there be more be done in this? Yes, of course. Then the other things, like we have another program called Vidyarthini, which is women in supply chain. I think the diversity is again a big portion of discussion that is there. I think a lot of us ignore the 50% of the population by not giving opportunity to diversity, especially in something like a supply chain. So again, we are basically partnering with the government organizations and some NGOs to basically say Vidyarthini, which is introducing supply chain to women, and also ensuring that the families understand that it is a safe job to go to. It's a very big thing, right? Then comes the other side, which is like what I do day to day, which is tech side. Gone are the days where like, okay, new thing is like every 5 years there is a new skill coming in with the likes of Gen AI and Chat GPT coming in. It's like what I learned 2 weeks back, is it relevant anymore? There, I believe a lot more collaboration is needed between industry and the education and the government to say, how do we ensure that the education system keeps up? Because today, I personally believe there's a dearth of a lot of the good educators in tier 2, tier 3 colleges. Again, where can industry play? Again, I'll give 2 examples where we're doing, and hopefully a lot of you are also doing to improve. We have something called Girls Wanna Code. So we go to tier 2, tier 3 colleges, get girls only to code, and then we assign mentors to from our this thing and spend 4 months to 6 months to get them ready to the industry. Because the skills that are coming, they know how to code, but how to apply that practically to a business problem is where I think the industry play a big gap. Okay. Second one is like we have something called like programs like Wired, which is like case study to the management schools, or we have Grid program where we basically throw out engineering problems to these colleges, and they are basically, we get some brilliant ideas that are coming in, and a lot of them come from tier 2, tier 3 colleges. So my sincere request to all the HR folks is like, if you are not already doing it, go to your management and say, we want to try out some of these things. And I feel that like you will find abundant talent that is out there to bridge the gap that is out there. So.
Brilliant. Very nice insights, Bharath. One is, bringing talent back, and there's a reverse brain drain. I'm a person who's extremely India positive, and this is so nice to hear that there is a lot of compelling pull for talent towards the country, and there's so much that we can do within the country. I also like the fact of the Flipkart case study of partnering closely with the government and, the faculty. I think, you very well expressed it. Vidyarthini is something that's really nice, and we need more Vidyarthinis. So some of you who are head of organizations, that's something that more of us should do more of. Recently came across a friend of mine who is part of a family business, and she comes out and she's starting on her own. And what she does is really curates innovation labs for companies. So the way it's modeled out is it's created as a hackathon environment, and she intertwines it with academia. She gets the students from academics, and she creates these mass hackathons on tech topics. These are not just pure IT skills, but really tech breakdowns, wear and tear analysis. And then this talent is then, the companies that participate in the hackathon, they get to leverage this talent. A very innovative way of looking at how to extract the brains across the country and bring them together. And there are people who are doing all this. So we have Ramesh here, who is from the skilling world, has a lot of data behind what the work that he's doing. It was very interesting to listen to him in the back room while we met. So over to you, Ramesh, and to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. I think we heard a lot of things from my co-panelists around this commoditization of intelligence, skilling is important. But then the base problem which we need to understand is the education system in India up to the mark? Does it deliver to what it is supposed to? That's something which we'll explore in the next 2-3 minutes. See, our education system is extremely skewed towards qualification and not towards skilling. The reason why I say so is we've got 80 crore people in India who are less than 35 years of age, who are actually critically thinking about the discrepancy between potential versus realization, ambition versus support, and employment versus employability. I'll just explain what I mean. See, if you look at the number of graduates who are coming out today, out of 10 graduates in India, only 1 gets a job. Out of 5 engineering graduates in India, only 1 gets a job. And out of 4 MBA graduates, only 1 gets a job. That's reality. This is data. Now, at the same time, if you look at it, there are 2 other data points which are very interesting. One is to say that only 5% of all the graduates are formally trained so that they become productive. And this is seen with all of us who are there from the corporates. Now, if you take a fresher, especially on the tech side, we were talking so much on tech, it takes almost 1 year before people get productive and are deployed on projects. If you look at industries like mining, it takes even more, 1.5 years. Management consulting takes 3 months to 6 months. So there are different industries, manufacturing. I know companies in the Chennai belt who do training for a minimum of 1 month. BFSI is another story. So nowhere a person is productive immediately after their formal education. And this is reality. And if you tie it back to the data, just 2 months back, there was this data all over saying that 38% of IITians from IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay, the leading IITs, have not got a job. So that's what is the other thing which is happening. Now, why is it happening? What is the solution? Now, I imagine education as a chariot with 2 wheels. And unless both wheels move in tandem, the chariot cannot go forward. The first wheel is formal theory, which I think India has mastered quite a bit. We've got the best of the curriculum. We work with a lot of universities across the globe. Our leading universities, IITs, IIMs, we are well known, well reputed. There's great amount of theoretical excellence, which we have mastered over the last so many decades. Now, the second wheel, which is extremely important, is the vocational training or the skilling or on-the-job training. That is practical experience. And because that has not probably been done at all or done to a very limited extent, we see that 38% of IITians are not placed. Now just think of the situation of other colleges. If leading colleges like IIT are not able to place 100% of their students, think of what happens below the rung. And that's, you can correlate it to the data. So if you think of what is required, skilling is equally important, and I think the government has done quite a bit. They have come up with schemes, but there's a lot to do. One is, if you look at National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, or the Skill India Mission, or the Ministry of Education coming up with NATS, National Apprenticeship Training Scheme, or the work integrated learning programs. These are all very, very innovative ways to ensure that the industry builds a very sustainable talent supply chain. Now, this is extremely important for us to understand. The reason why I say so is apprenticeship should not be looked at as a low-cost alternative to labor. That is not the spirit with which the government of India is pushing this, nor is it the spirit with which all the HR fraternity is trying to push that for the organization. The real intent is we want to build a sustainable talent supply chain. We want to build good succession planning and ensure that people are productive from day one, because the more the productivity, the more the profits of the company. It's as simple as that. So how do you ensure productivity? You ensure productivity by ensuring that there is equal balance between theoretical education and the practical education, which is the vocational part. So both these wheels go in tandem, and then the chariot moves forward. So that's my analogy to it. There are a few things the government can still do in terms of, we've come up with recommendations on ABC credit framework, which is there on the DigiLocker, where the students can get credits for the skilling that they've done through apprenticeship, and also the learning credits. We've tied up with 22 universities from TeamLease. With all these credits, they can go, it's like a credit card points, you can redeem these credit points against a degree with any university. The NEP, New Education Policy of 2020, allows you to do all this, but it has not been embraced to a great extent by all the industry. In fact, apprenticeship 2.5% to 15% is mandated by the law. It is decriminalized, so all the companies get notices, but people don't go behind bars. But you are erring on the wrong side of the law if you do not have 2.5% apprentices and you have more than 30 employees in your setup. So these are things where awareness has to be given. We have to ensure that education runs on both the wheels, and then the chariot moves forward. So those are my thoughts. I know I'm
Thanks, thanks, Ramesh. I told you he's a man of statistics. Let's do a quick thought survey here. I have a question for each of you. If you were to give, if you are on that task force, and if you are having that ability to give one advice to the government with respect to talent, what would that be?
Make it easier for industries and institutions to collaborate by identifying the right gaps at the right time. I think let's not get bogged down by maybe trying to do policies for 2 years, because by the time the policy gets set up, I think the requirements have changed. Right, that's.
I just want to add to what he said, because I'm not going to add a new point. It's actually legalization of the tripartite, what you said. There is an industry, there is an academia, and there is a student. Today, everything is bipartite. So the legal contract is either between the student and the university, or the student, trainee, and the company. There's nothing which is binding all the three parties. So if the government is going to formalize this, I think that will make a major difference. So to the same point what he said.
Priya, yeah.
If I can give two advice instead of one, please. One is that I think use, in the education system, use skill currency. I think that's a very important part of the education. Second is education is not a business model. It's very important for education to be seen as shaping the nation in the future. So how do you, like what both Bharath and Ramesh were saying, how do you build the bridges between, the academia, industry, and there are lots of, I would say, people who can contribute to shaping this. Including, I think there is a segment on retirement I heard today in the nasscom, and I'm saying that there is such a good knowledge sitting with all the people perhaps who are also in the retirement segment who can play a significant role in shaping that model. In addition to it, I also believe that a lot of bright Indian professors are advising the international curriculum. I do see them playing a role in India itself. But demystified, less bureaucracy, less red tapeism, and really, corrected from the grassroots is what I would say.
Spoke for all of us. I go to a debatable extent saying, should government really not interfere in education and just leave it to players to, try and do it? But that's for debate. During lunch, perhaps some of you can group together. One advice to the academic world.
Get your curriculums right fast. I think, I still see people trying to learn Fortrans and whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like when last anybody in the industry has used those kind of these things. And I think skilling their own educators, right, their own lecturers to the new things, they have to invest, because without that, the people that come out are left to their own devices to learn things. So I think all the educational institutions have to step up out there. And I think if you show that you are willing to go 3 steps forward, probably the industry will start taking 1 step forward to collaborate better. Right now, the thought process is, anyway, I have to do everything. I'll just pick from the best institutes and then hope for the best.
Yeah. So I'll create a college within my own company rather. Yeah, which is what many of us are doing. So any other advice?
I think just to add to what Bharath said, upskill, get relevant, and I think get with the times is what I would say.
Get with the time.
One advice is just embrace NEP. The policy is out there. If you have 3 years curriculum, please send your students for 2 semesters for industrial on-the-job training. If you're supposed to do 4 semesters, you got to send at least 3 to 4 semesters on vocational training. So just embrace NEP.
So quick survey, sorry.
I actually concur with that. Like, you get these 2-month interns, you don't know what to do. I'm pretty sure all HR
So
can
how
agree
many
to
of
that.
us know about NEP here? A raise of hands. How many of you know? Okay, so just turn around the room. There's more of an opportunity for all of us to get clarity around what is NEP. And in Tamil Nadu, some of you are here. There's a beautiful program called as Nan Mudalvan scheme, which is doing beautifully. We are one of the beneficiaries of the program. So try and look up to these programs, which is already there. But obviously, the area of improvement is to brand it enough and actually talk about it more often. I think we don't do enough as a country on all those. So one advice to the industry with respect to talent.
I would want you to take apprentices for 2 semesters, find the job roles. I was just kidding. See, it's very important from industry perspective to ensure that you look at innovative models of building talent supply chain. And why I say apprenticeship is very innovative is, we are 1/3 education, we are 1/3 ITI, which is vocational training, and 1/3 an employment exchange. If you look at apprenticeship, that's what it is in reality. Now, this is extremely innovative, and with all the business models changing, like what he was saying or what Priya was alluding to, if you are not embracing newer models for building talent, then you will be left out. So please embrace degree apprenticeship. We are here to help you from TeamLease, and that's it.
So thank you, Ramesh. On that note, we'd like to end here with just this. Personally, I feel, we are all parents. We all aspire our children to have the highest degree that they can. How many of us really support them to get vocational skilling also alongside so that they really become employable in the organizations they dream of? Is it a social stigma we're creating for ourselves? And can we nurture that conditioning? Because West has done it. It's just that we are stuck up with this degree and stuff like that. My second premise that I'm very passionate about is that talent is not a resource. It's a living being. It thinks on its own. It has a life of its own. So as organizations, can we play the role of a gardener and just provide it a fertile soil? And that fertile soil may not be in the metro cities. It could lie somewhere else. That seed may not be from the metro cities. It could be from somewhere else. Can we identify them? Can we bring them together? Can we be the enabler and can we be the gardener? So with that premise, ever grateful for this opportunity to be with all of you. And it's been wonderful. And you've been patient just before lunch listening to us. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy your discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.